empowering minds, amplifying voices, and transforming lives. This is the Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by the 𝗭𝗏𝗂𝗏 Foundation. Your hosts, 𝗭𝗏𝗀𝗂𝗏 and 𝗭𝗲𝗏.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us from to. My name is 𝗭𝗲𝗏 all the way from South Africa. And you know what it is now, Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by 𝗭𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏 Foundation. You know, this is where we talk about so many untold stories that can give us hope, that can lift us up. And you know that you can follow us on LinkedIn and our Facebook page, where you can say 𝗭𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏 Foundation. And don't forget also, to subscribe in our YouTube channel and also hit that notification button so that we can be always able to communicate with you. And you can also email us or go to our website, the 𝗭𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏foundation.org, where you can also check our website and see what do we have there for Untold Stories of Hope podcast, where we empower minds, amplify voices, and we are transforming lives. So this is what we are doing today. We've got an amazing topic that we are going to talk about, my story, from zero to the lessons that I learned from it. This is what we are talking about today. We've got an amazing gentleman, an amazing guest. This is a global leader. This is a man with a vision. His name is Ben Thompson, all the way from Madrid, the capital city of Spain. And we are talking about Europe here. So you're going to like it, because this is where he tells us, the story of how he went to rock bottom. And from that zero, he had to build himself way up. He's the founder of Lead Within Academy, which is a global organization whereby they design and deliver human skills programs, to schools, also to organizations and to companies globally. So let me not waste time. Let me welcome Ben Thompson. Ben, welcome, man.
Well, what an introduction. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the privilege to be on here. So yes, wonderful, wonderful introduction. And I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to sort of engaging with you, speaking with you, and yes, enjoying the moment.
Amazing. When I listened to your story the first time, I felt a bit emotional, because I can see so much passion in your eyes. And I was like, I can't wait for this podcast with Ben, because I know that there's a lot of people who are going to find hope through your story globally. So now, the first important thing that I want us to talk about is the turning point of your story. When everything fell down, when everything fell apart, everyone wants to know, how did it feel like? How did it look like? How did it, make you feel completely?
And we discussed this last week a while ago. And it brought back some memories, and it brought back those emotions. You tend to forget at times. And yeah. I remember saying that I never forgot when I had the layover from the airport and everything disappeared. Everything that you built, you worked 10 years for, just completely evaporated. And you thought, I've lost everything. But it was one of those paradox moments where at the same time I found myself within that period. And that period of that airport, and I'll never forget, I flew from Karachi and I landed from Karachi in Dubai, and it's 4:30 in the morning. I thought, wow, what's going through your head, Ben? Like, this isn't something you've experienced before. This is something you've never sort of really come across. Now you've got to figure out a plan. You've actually got to really dig deep within this. And I sat there in the lounge in Dubai for 10 hours, and I thought, and it was one of those moments, it was dead silent. And I still, to this day, can't even explain I guess if someone's lost something before and literally found themselves at rock bottom, you will know the feeling where I just sat there for these 10 hours going through these emotions. I thought, I've lost everything. But at the same time, I didn't feel under pressure. I didn't feel worried. I didn't feel scared. It was like a paradox of I felt like something from within was building. And I felt, I've learned a lot from this. I've learned a lot from this experience. Let's say I'll start writing down what I've learned from it. And from there, pen to paper just started getting to work. And I was like, wow, the only way is up. And the only way is going to be up when you're at these low points in life. And people don't seem to recognize that. And they seem to get in a situation where they just be in this low moment and this depression stage where they feel like everything's against. Whereas I thought, everything's going to work out because I can't get any worse than where I am. It literally is. And as I alluded to last time, I had £2 in my account and I thought, what can I do here? Like, I've got to come up with something. I can't sit here and just cry and just be in this sort of negative state. I have to think positive. I have to think, right, let's get to work. And from that point onwards, it was, as anything in life, take action. You have to take action to dig your heel and focus on what you actually want from life. I feel like a lot of us chase the money and chase the success, but it never gives that sense of purpose or fulfillment inside. But I knew that I thought, right, I've done that, chase money, chase the golden coin and think it's going to solve the problems where it doesn't. And when I started looking from within and really started focusing on what I really wanted from life and what I really found that give me a purpose, from there on, everything just started to open up and doors have started to open up. And before you know, you're gaining momentum, you're gaining this traction. It's like, that will happen for the right reasons. Everything that happened and everything that was people would look at as a negative and look at as disaster created and give me birth to sort of my newfound self and the business I do now, which for me is what I wake up every day for, in awe and blessed that I get this opportunity. It's, again, you can't explain the emotion unless you've gone through that emotion. But when you get to that feeling, you put yourself through it, it's like, I get that. And I will never want to lose that.
You know, we have a saying at Destiny Connect Foundation that experience is the best teacher. You know, so when I listen to your story now and I just resonate with, you know, how much you learned instead of just reading from a book. I mean, this is part of what your story is doing to change the lives of many people. And, you know, I want to talk to you now about the silent struggles. The part where you had to start rebuilding, but there are certain burdens that you were carrying to yourselves, and there are things that you've never shared with anyone. You know, sometimes we've got those silent struggles and battles that we're really fighting, and we never said it to anyone publicly. And share with us about that. What are some of the things that you really kept to yourself? Yet, you know, when people see you smiling, they think everything is okay, and they just think you are just doing fine.
Well, that's it. I feel like a lot of us have two different characters. We have the character in front of social media and the audience, but the character inside. And when you go for these barriers, you sort of, you question everything you do. You question your sort of self. Like, wow. And it's, those silent moments, those silent sort of, they're scary, but it's a case of, it's what's needed. It's what's required. And I thought I'll never forget, as I mentioned you before, that when I was on that bedroom floor in my friends in London, that's when you're at a point of silence and a point of reflection. And I'll never forget, it was winter, it was freezing cold. And I thought, wow, this is what I didn't expect. This is what I didn't expect. And then we question ourselves and we sort of talk ill of ourselves. We're all common to that. Like I say, we're human beings. We sort of get in this crazy pattern of thoughts. And it was a case of when I was sitting there questioning my decision making, questioning the actions I took, looking back on the pattern I made and why this all sort of fell down beneath me. But then from there on, that silent moment is the best thing to do, because then you actually really you need silence in life to figure out where you're going and what you're doing. Because I find like in the world we're living in with so much busy noise, busy people in a busy world, you can't find yourself in that sort of noise because you just get distracted. And when you're in that position, you've lost everything and you're sort of sitting there, silence, dark, and you feel, right, I need to look at the light at the end of the tunnel. I need to find the light, because otherwise I'm going to be lost in the dark. And before you know it, you're in a bad situation, in a bad place.
You know, I love what you said earlier. You can't be sitting and feeling pity for yourself and not do anything. You know, I think when we shared previously, you know, in our meeting, I even shared how I was almost in a similar situation. And, you know, where I lost everything I had, but it was a different case. And now, you know, sometimes it's what we say. You don't start from scratch. You start from experience. And I believe this is what you were just saying to us now and the viewers. And I'm sure everyone is watching to listen, you know, to what you're saying now. Let's talk about identity and purpose. I love situations that come, and this kind of situations, they challenge your identity. They challenge your purpose. Because at the end of the day, it's either you go back continuously or you just move forward and you take a leap of faith. Now, in the part of losing everything that you had, which part of your identity was threatened the most? And which part was used as a reborn, through that setback?
It's a good question. And it's like neuroplasticity, isn't it? It's the growth mindset to a fixed mindset. And it's when the part of me which I really found myself is finding what I loved. And that's something that really grew on me. And I suppose we always feel like we have to, our only value in life is money, let's say, materialistic value. And for that, you take a hit, you take an egotistical hit. Let's say, I think all of us individuals have an ego. And when you lose everything, you feel like that ego's really hit you and it really sort of wins you as such. It suffocates you and you feel like, oh, I took that damage. And that's where I felt that's where I felt the effect of the negative. You felt, what do I have to offer? Because I've just lost everything. And you feel like that because you feel like as a human being, I don't have much to offer now, until you look at the positives and go, whoa, hold up here. Let's zoom out. Let's focus on what I've been offering for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And let's really look at the positive side of things. I'm still alive. I can still breathe. I can still eat. I've still got clothes. Yes, it's not in the situations I want to be in, but that's the positives you have to work off. Then from there, I was like, right, what have I always done in life? Well, I've done business for as long as I can remember. My family's grew up with entrepreneurs. I've known how to communicate and get in certain rooms. So that's a really core skill that I've really managed to hone in on certain sectors. Then from there on, my confidence, you have to have confidence in yourself. Even if sometimes you don't feel it inside, I feel like sometimes you just have to believe it and really just go, this is going to work out, and embed that confidence, even when things are going against you and you feel like the world's against you, just show it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep moving forward, and whatever happens, it happens. But I'm not going to stop believing in me. Then all of a sudden you start adapting these skills. Then from there on, you focus more on the positives than the negatives. So when you ask that, is the ego took a sort of a bit of a burn, which it's going to. But at the other side, I was reborn into something that I just thought of, I found within myself, learning sort of the human skills, and actually really honing on the skills that made me who I am today.
That's beautiful. I mean, I'm just thinking about the whole process of what you went through. And now I'm thinking about relationships and loyalty. In situations like that, Ben, we have to be honest, there's someone listening or watching out there, and they are going through a similar situation now. It's a season. I'm a strong believer of seasons. And now, who stood behind you when all of this was happening? And surprisingly, who walked away from you? And what does that mean to you when you start analyzing the issue of relationships and loyalty?
When you've got everything, you have a very big circle. When you have nothing, your circle shrinks. And we as people know that, everyone knows that when the going gets tough, you'll soon see the people who run away quite quick because they don't want to be around that and they don't need it. But then it truly shows the mark of a character, and it shows friendships and relationships and who's actually there to support you. And there was a few friends who really dug me in and said, look, Ben, I've got a flaw. I said, look, I've got a house, I've got a roof over my head. Like I said, he wasn't doing bad, he just never had a bed there. So you really looked after me. He's a good friend of mine, Jack. And then I'd have other friends who were, let's say, who were there, but a lot of them disappeared very quick. And this is something that everyone's really got to focus on. When the going gets tough, you will soon see that circle shrink very, very quick. And all of a sudden, they're non-existent. And then that's where you got to say, in life, keep your circle small. Having too many friends sounds like a good thing, but you don't want to be the most popular person in the room because then you're a target. So you've got to be very careful who you allow in, and define your values and understand, like say, you got all your relationships and friendships should be value driven, and it shouldn't be financially driven. It shouldn't be purpose, like say, transactional. It should be value driven in everything you do.
And I understand what you're saying very, clearly. I remember when I was going through those days, I used to write, on my social media, when days are dark, friends are few, and that's not a nice thing, especially when you find yourself putting on social media. It shows that somewhere you are affected internally, because there's those people who walked away and you never thought they're going to walk away, but surely there are those who stay behind. And, I remember the saying that goes, when the going gets tough, be tough yourself and get going. It's about that. When the going gets tough, you become tough yourself and get going. And we've got, issues of, faith, fear, and inner voices. I mean, at that moment of your life, I believe there were opposing voices, within yourself. I mean, there's that voice of discouragement that comes, that's trying to pull you back. out of fear, and trying to hold you from really stepping forward. But also there's a voice that really speaks to you about your rising. And tell us about moments where you had these opposing voices. I mean, this is a make or break. This is where you really step higher. You come out or you shrink and you sink deep into where you are. But the nice thing is that I'm asking this question, but for the fact that I see you here now and we are talking about, I clearly know the answer already, but I just want to know that interesting part of the voices that are opposing each other at that moment.
We're always going to have voices for us and against us. We're always going to have that. It's even, I think, when you're going to the top or when you're going to succeeding or when you're doing not doing well, you're always going to have, let's say, those two voices against you. And I say, when I was in England, I was freezing, and you feel like you have nothing. And there was that negative voice saying you're not good enough. You're not enough here. Go back to what you used to do, Ben, because that was your comfort. That was where you earned your sort of living. That was your safe spaces. And then I had the other side. I said, Ben, look how far you've come. Look what you've overcome. You've lived in Karachi. You've lived in Dubai, Australia, New Zealand. Look at what you've gained and to say the knowledge you've learned from this experience. Do not see, you're constantly in this sort of battle with each other. And for me, it was, as I alluded to, the neuroplasticity, it's growth mindset or fixed mindset. Do I want to go back to what I used to do? Not at all. I had moments, like say small moments in life where I debated going back, or I thought, grow from this, learn from this, go. You cannot go back. We have to, I generally believe, I think we have to look back and connect the dots to look forward. You need to do that as human beings to understand why we got to the stage where we got to, what we have learned from it, and then how we can move from it. I think we do need to do that. But my mindset was always, Ben, you've got something here. You've learned a lot from here. You love helping people. It's something that I've loved to do. And from that point on, this is the passion, this is the mission, this is your journey. Do not stop until you get there. And it was one of those sort of things, once you took one foot in the right direction, and it was nervous at the start because, let's say, it's walking into the unknown as such. You are slightly walking into unknown territory. So in that position, you've got to identify and find yourself and reinvent yourself as a human being, which is literally like another chapter of your life. And from that point, it's scary, but just go. You don't know what's going to come from it. And from that point, took one step, then another step. Then all of a sudden, you're starting to walk faster and faster. And all of a sudden, you're starting to jog. And it was literally how it was working. And it was just, that's how I learned. It was that demon's always going to be there. That's always going to be. Even when things are going good and I've had amazing days. But then focus on that side. Like I say, turn around, look at it and say, you're not going to come get me. And just go back the other way.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're still watching Untold Stories of Hope podcast brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation with me, 𝗵𝗵𝘂𝗶𝗶𝗵, here in South Africa. It's a lovely weather. I'm watching, the rain outside as I'm speaking to Ben now, and I'm enjoying the view. So this is where we empower minds, amplify voices, and transform lives. Remember that you can follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, also destinyconnectfoundation.org. Also is our email, and you can check whatever that we have there for you, because there are so many opportunities. And don't forget that if you also want to be part of this podcast, you can also make an application there. So we are still with Ben Thompson, the founder of, a very great global organization, man. And I'm listening to his story now, and I'm thinking, what is it that can break you if Ben had to come out from the situation? This is what we call a humanity giant. I mean, he's one of those people that we are looking at his story now and we are inspired. And what you said, Ben, earlier is really amazing, because we are talking about how you built your life from zero, to where you are now and the lessons that you learned from it. So if you've just joined us now, here we go. So now you mentioned something about the inner voices, Ben. You mentioned something about how that negative voice always be there and it will try to hold you, it will try to, but you need to focus on the voice that tells you to move forward. Now, let's talk about the very first small victory that gave you hope after the time that you spent in that season. Sometimes you are in a situation and it goes on and on and on and on and on for some time. One of the most interesting questions is to ask you, how long have you been there? Because someone out there also is like, I feel like my season is longer. I feel like I've been in this situation for too long. Maybe I'm not doing something right. But then what was that first victory and how did it matter deeply to you?
The first victory I ever had was when I wrote the book, Transform in 30 Days. That was, and it wasn't to the point that was the first small victory that I needed in life, that I accomplished something. And as we mentioned, that when you have these demons this side, my thought was towards, I have learned, I need to now write down what I love writing. With me writing down, I need that clarity in my mind to see what I've gone through and understand it from a broader scale. So when I wrote that book, and the emotions, it's nice because I feel like with people, they don't tell their story enough because they're embarrassed of their past and they're sort of afraid of sort of mentioning it to themselves, and they sort of hide it and they uncover it. For me, it was like an opening, and I really become accepted of who I was and where I come from. So writing that book was one of my proudest achievements. I genuinely believe to life that I've ever done. And I gave this to a friend of mine who's a very good reader, very high up in London's CEO. And he went, Ben, this is probably one of the most impactful books I've ever read and actually ever come. I generally couldn't believe it. And for me to get that, I don't care when it comes to money or anything in life. When you're hearing how it touches someone's feelings and it makes them resonate on their own life and how it can impact them, that's where you know. That's the only win I needed to know I was making the right call and to know that I was following something that I really enjoyed. And that was the smallest win, but at the same time, the largest win, and a win that I will never forget. I've still got the message. I've still got everything stored up, thinking that is the thing that's the thing that I wake up to. Like, that's why you do what you do. So the small win and the large win was writing that book and getting it published and finished, and thinking that was what I'd just done. And it didn't cost anything but my time and me tapping into myself. That's what for me, that was finding who I was. So that was really, for me, will live long and forever.
That's beautiful. And it's like, a moment really that gave you hope, because I can imagine, having the book, published and everything. And, some of our viewers are going to be lucky because they're going to win themselves, Ben Thompson's book, so that you can be able to read it yourself and get inspiration from his story. And I want to talk to you now, Ben, about your professional breakthrough. When it comes to the professionals, standing point, what skill or mindset or decision you had to apply and it worked as your comeback foundational breakthrough? This is where you say, now this is what I did. This is the skill I applied. This is the decision I made. This is the mindset I had to shift to. And that's when I got my major breakthrough. And now this is who the person that I am today.
So the most important skill was confidence. Like I say, communication is so important, but confidence in yourself. Backing your voice from behind. You need confidence. Because I feel like I work with clients from all over the world now, and a lot of them have lost their voice as such or lost their self-belief. Once they find that confidence, from there on, everything just opens up because you back yourself. So if I look at skills in life that I now teach and I get fortunate to teach, is confidence. And it's not hard to find. Like I say, it's just looking deep from within. It's one of those sort of things. Be accepted, be aware of who you are, accept it, and get that confidence. Say, remember, whoever's looking to this, whoever's seeing this, listening to this, we've got a chance. We've got that hope. We've got an opportunity. So don't take things for granted and understand like we're all blessed to be here. We're all blessed with this opportunity. There's one skill, it is confidence in yourself, because that beats anything for me.
And you spoke about something that we, normally forget about. Confidence is something that gets affected. I'm looking at, how confident you are now. And I'm just imagining back in those times when really things were difficult. But I can imagine how you had to stand, against all odds and come into the platform again. And now I'm looking at, how you are impacting many lives globally. And I'm seeing how you are passionate about helping other human beings, to also rise. There are so many people who have fallen. There are so many people who have given up. There are so many people who, have made mistakes. Sometimes we don't talk about that, because this is what I want to talk about now, the lessons that were so costly to you. And what are those expensive lessons that you have learned throughout your journey, throughout your process, and those expensive lessons, whether it's emotionally, whether it's spiritually, whether it's financially. Someone out there, Ben, knows very well that they really need to rise, but because of the the depth of the situation, sometimes they're a bit discouraged. What are those expensive lessons that you learned throughout your journey?
Cool. That's a good question. That's a
very nice one.
In life, we're always going to learn lessons. And as we spoke many times before, that you can only learn your lessons from failing. You can only learn your lessons from losing. It doesn't matter how bad you feel like your situation is. Someone will always have it worse off. And I know it's not nice to compare yourself to someone else, but it's really true. And I feel like we're always going to be in a position where the lessons we're learning, we feel like, how can I get up from here? But as I mentioned before, you have to just move. Like, this is the only lesson you can learn. It's the only lesson you can learn is you just have to accept it and go.
Yeah.
That I've gone through so many lessons, where it be breakups, losing business, losing the house, all these mistakes. Yeah. I can't sit there and just go, it's the worst thing in the world. Okay, move. Yeah. So from every lesson, for every setback, and for every sort of negative that you're going through, just get going. Get moving forward, because you will find your path and you will find yourself. And not only that, and from there on, you build confidence. And from there on, you get on it. So it's the less. That was a wonderful question.
I could see that you really enjoyed answering that one. And sometimes that's why I said to you, we forget about the lessons we learn, and somebody knows out there that, okay, this is what I did. These are the lessons. At times, if we don't learn those lessons, we don't go to the next phase, or we don't go to the next season, because we feel that.
It's even looking at the people. Look who's around you.
Yeah.
And this is where I deal with a lot of people, let's say in my sort of daily basis. Are these people helping you, supporting you, and sort of encouraging you, or are they just accepting you and saying, no, you stay where you are? Because if they are, you should really be careful who you surround yourself with, because there are people that just don't want you to grow, because if they don't want you to grow, because they don't want to grow themselves. And this is why I say, people, as you mentioned, are in seasons. You will go through seasons where you move through people, and that's just like writing a book in the chapter. It's a new chapter. If people aren't supporting you and saying, I expect more from you, I expect you to do more, I expect you to take action, I expect you to look after yourself. If they're not doing that, really look within. And look at your surroundings, and look at your environment, look at your habits. There's so many things you don't tend to look at. And when you start really focusing on what's around you, the answers are in black and white. It's that obvious. It really stands out in the obvious. But again, it's hard to be aware of our actions, because we don't like to look that deep, but you need to figure out where you're going.
That's beautiful. Such situations, Ben, can become traumatic. And sometimes, as you move on in life, there are those triggering moments whereby they want to hold you back. They want to take you back where you're coming from. And sometimes we hardly speak about this. How do you recharge? How do you stay positive? How do you maintain? I mean, yes, you might have risen from that situation, but there will also be other situations that comes, not similar to that one, but those challenges that tries to pull you back and, remind you of those times. How do you recharge? How do you fill yourself up? And how did you deal with that traumatic situation to make sure that you are present and you are looking at the future?
Again, it was writing down who I was and who I am. Understanding what am I doing wrong? Because we might blame it on everyone else. It's very easy, but what am I doing wrong? Am I welcoming? Am I saying yes to everyone? Am I not saying no to everything? So it's really focused on what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And then from there on, saying, right, these are my non-negotiables. I'm going to focus on what I eat, when I go to the gym, what I do for work. And it really is setting non-negotiables for yourself. And it literally is, we can't blame anyone else but ourselves. It's very easy to do it. And like I say, it's something that I see a lot of people point the finger. And someone wonderful said one thing ages ago to me: when you're pointing one finger forward, remember there's three pointing back. That's the power of yourself.
Wow.
So don't ever point your finger forward, because there's always three pointing back at you. And it's so true. And it's a case of look at yourself. Look at what you're doing right. Look at what you're doing wrong. If something you're doing is something you can change and you're doing it wrong, change it. Remove it. Is it going on the phone too much? Is it you're not getting out there and sort of approaching people, being confident, sort of communicating to people? Are you not looking at every opportunity? Are you just sort of sitting there wallowing all day? If you're doing that, you're going to get the same results. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
You know what I'm hearing from you? Responsibility and accountability.
Oh.
You are right when you say normally we point at everything else except our own direction. And that's a huge lesson. You know, you reminded me of something, because at the end of the day, it's about what do you do about the situation instead of blaming any other person, instead of blaming the economy, instead of blaming your background or whatever, including blaming our own mistakes. If you would talk to yourself when you were in that situation today, what would you advise Ben when he was in that particular situation today? What would you say to him?
Firstly, I'll say you idiot. I'll say you idiot. That wasn't the wisest of moves. But then I would have that deep voice saying, "What an experience! What a lesson you've learned."
Yeah.
And as you say, being in environments where you see people are very underprivileged, and like say that they're born with no opportunity from the start, and seeing them sort of really 1,000 times worse off than I was. From that point, it's a case of you've got the ability to move, you've got the ability to think, you've got the ability to speak, you've got the ability to believe. Don't you dare try and you blame anyone else but yourself. And it is accountability and it's self-awareness, and it really is reflection. And that was what I'd say to myself, even for those dark, deep moments and those awful situations you sort of land yourself in. It would be a case of you got yourself here, no one else.
I feel it there. I understand that. Because at the end of the day, it's the reflection now. It's the introspection. And I understand. And one thing I'm glad about, Ben, is that I mentioned someone is in that similar situation that you once found yourself in. And these are the words that are going to heal him or her, whatever. It's those words that are going to build them up, you know, fix their hearts and realign their minds. And I remember, you know, when I was in one of those dark seasons of my life, you know, one thing I did was to blame everyone. It was hard to learn from my mistakes. And what it did to me, it prolonged the season and it kept me in that particular space for too long. And you said something that unlocked so much in me now, because I myself, if I were to advise the Puffy that was there at that time, I would say to him, wake up, Puffy, wake up, wake up. You're sleeping there. You know, you're not focused. You're not paying attention. What's wrong with you? And it's painful because sometimes this is when we don't make the most of the seasons that we go through. But now we know better. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. There's a viewer somewhere out there, you know, who is about to give up their dream. You know, someone is losing hope somewhere, Ben, and somebody's listening to you now, and they're like, you know what? I feel like you have more strength than I have. You know, I have been through a lot. I've been broken. My vision and dream, it seems too hard to achieve. What message of hope can you give to that viewer or that listener, you know, so that they can come out of that pit where they have fallen into? And please, let's not forget that there are so many people out there, Ben, who gave themselves to addictions, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's pornography, whatever it is. There are so many issues out there where people want to find coping mechanisms because they find themselves when they lost everything, or they might have lost some things, but because they were attached to those things, it's difficult for them to move on or move up. What can you say to this person?
There's a word that I use every time, because I hear this quite often. I hear this quite a lot, and it's called impossible. A lot of people these days feel like everything's impossible. My dreams are impossible. And I had this moment and I couldn't believe it when I sort of looked and zoomed out. And I started looking at it as I'm possible. And it's so wonderful when you see that within yourself and start looking at things from, instead of being impossible, look at it as I'm possible. I'm possible to achieve this. I can do that. And as soon as you start changing that framework and that mindset, it really ignites yourself. Like, everyone has dreams. Yes, many people don't go to fulfill their dreams because of certain situations, certain environments, but I believe it's all down to their mindset. But whenever you feel like something's going tough, or the grain's going against you, you feel like everyone's going against you, just remember that word. I am possible and impossible got the exact same letters. But there's two different meanings.
Yeah.
Right? That's how we should look at the world. And nothing in life is impossible. If you can't think of it, it's not impossible. If you can think of it, sorry, like I say, it's not impossible. So it's around. And this is it. So I feel like if anyone's going through a tough moment, a tough stage, first off, don't give up on your dreams. Don't ever give up on your dreams. That's something. We are here for a millisecond. We're not here for long on this. We don't exist here for a long time, and we're not going to be coming back. Don't ever feel like you should settle for average. Don't feel like the season you're in is going to define your life, because it's not. Like I say, everything comes in chapters. Everything in life is temporary. You're just going through a temporary stage in life where it's not going for you. Change what you're doing. Look at the bright light somewhere. There is a bright light somewhere. What you can actually grab onto and just focus on that. Just take that first move and just believe in yourself. And I've seen it so many occasions and heard so many stories and seen it myself. I know what it's like to be in the dark. I know what it's like to have everything going against you. But what got through wasn't, as you mentioned, blaming everyone. It was me taking action, me seeing that light somewhere and just spending as long as I could trying to find it. But once you find it, there's hope. And once you got that hope, there's belief. Once you get belief, confidence kicks in and you're off.
This is Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation. Man, it's a beautiful episode. This particular episode is sponsored by Lead Within Academy. So we are grateful for that, because we are here in partnership with Ben Thompson, and he's giving us everything we need so that we can be able to rise from any particular setbacks that we face in life. And don't forget that you can follow us on our LinkedIn, Facebook, destinyconnectfoundation.org. Also is our email. And also remember to subscribe on our YouTube channel and hit that ring button so that you can see all the notifications we share with you. We are about to wrap up now, as we are going to allow Ben, to just give us his final remarks and also share his contact details, because this is very much important for you guys, our viewers and our followers, to be able to follow what he does. And also he is going to mention a bit in terms of what he will be planning to do, especially in the coming 2026. There are so many projects that we believe, Ben, you are working on. So this is now, the final moment of the podcast, whereby what is your final remarks to anyone out there globally, people that you wish you can even visit them, or you can even do some partnerships with them?
Well, my message to everyone is, we are living in a world driven by technology and driven by AI and driven by lack of humanity at the minute. I find that we're really driving in that world where everyone's stuck to their phone. Remember, humanity is timeless. Human connection is the most important thing you should focus on. Don't chase the noise. Don't chase the AI. Chase humanity. Chase connection. It's more important than people realize. And this is becoming more and more in demand as the years go on, especially with robotics and with sort of how the world's working. So don't ever forget to connect. Remember, that's so important. And what we're working on, we were discussing before that we want to support South Africa and do some projects in South Africa, because this is something that I really want to do. And
yay, nice.
I think it's important. I feel like I said to the team that I want to get 1 million people impacted next year, and really sort of work with them. This is our goal for next year. Like I say, 1 million people. It's ambitious, but from the ground up, I've seen it, and from the ground up, I've moved towards it, and every day it's getting bigger. And this is the goal for next year. And we want to go into South Africa. We want to impact people's lives and help them, support them, and do whatever we can by giving the book away. Everyone accessing the 30-day challenge, and actually looking at human skills from a broader scale and looking at the importance of it. So this is what I want to do in South Africa. In the meantime, we're working with schools and colleges and universities. And again, we're seeing the impact, and we're seeing, I'm really believing that pre-COVID, it wasn't a problem, but post-COVID, it's been a real problem with isolation, anxiety, and all these sort of individuals now just not wanting to sort of connect anymore. I'm seeing a big problem and believing in themselves. We're working with a lot of schools and colleges, companies these days. So this is what we're doing. And we're in our infancy, but we're growing at an exponential rate, and long may it continue. And we just hope that we can make an impact. Like I say, you follow your passion, you follow something you're purposeful about. The rest.
And how can people contact you on social media and link up with you?
So the company socials are at Lead Within Academy. That's for our company. And then for me, it's the Ben Thompson 10. If they want a message, if anyone's going through a hard time and just wanting some clarity and wanting someone to speak to, don't ever hesitate to message me. And I mean that. Don't think you can't message me. Let me know what's going on. I'm happy to jump on a call for free and sort of see where I can help you with. Everyone needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Ben Thompson, all the way from Madrid there in Spain and Europe. Lead Within Academy. He's the founder and he's a very amazing individual. We are grateful to have spent time with you in this podcast, Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation, where we empower minds, amplify voices, and transform lives. And you know that anytime you want to contact us as our viewer or you want to sponsor any episode, you are more than welcome to communicate with us. And also you can go to our website, whereby you can find more information, destinyconnectfoundation.org, whereby you can find more information in terms of how to link with us. I enjoyed this episode, and it's one of those that are going to come up as soon as possible so that we can be able to show the world everything we have. Ben Thompson, thank you so much.
It has been incredible to talk to you, and James as well. And like I say, what you guys are doing, it is unbelievable. And the more we scream about this, the more we sort of shout this from the rooftops. This needs to go further and further because what you guys are doing is incredible. And this is the connection we built. And I feel like I can't wait to work with you guys again. And thank you. Just thank you for being here and thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you so much. And by saying this, we are saying goodbye to everyone. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye and ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Untold Stories of Hope podcast. We hope you enjoyed and you were inspired by today's conversation. Remember, you can get more access to resources plus join a thriving global community of change makers by visiting our website at destinyconnectfoundation.org. Please subscribe to our channel and spread the word. Don't forget to turn the notification on. Until next time, keep inspiring your world.